Hi, I'm Pattu from FreeFinCal, and this is why you need to stop tracking your expenses and start tracking your investments. Inside, this method changed the way I looked at money, and it took me from a net worth of minus 3 lakhs, that is debt, to financial independence in about a decade or so. It gave me the right perspective on what is more important about money management, what is more important about investing, and managing expenses. So, why should we stop tracking expenses? If you ask people, why are you tracking your expenses? And everybody is asking, what is the best app to track expenses? I want good charts and analytics and so on. I mean, they say that if you ask them, why do you want to do that? They say, it's good to know how, analyze our spending patterns, know where we are spending and so on. Do you need to actually look at a pie chart or a graph of how you have been spending on fuel, eating out, on cinemas, etc., to understand which are the major avenues where you're spending money? Can you not differentiate between your needs and wants just by thinking about them? Do you actually need to see a spreadsheet to find out, I have been investing more money here on these months and so on? Are you some big corporation with million expenses? You're just an individual or a breadwinner of a family with just few people. Can you not figure out just by thinking about it where most of your money is getting spent? Do you really need an app for it or a tracker for it? When it comes to managing expenses, recording an expense after it has occurred has very little value. Even if you need an app to understand what's wrong with your spending habits, it has got very little value. After your expenses occurred and you're recording it, it has no value to your life. The problem is that tracking expenses misses the big picture. It does not highlight the real problem in our lives. The real problem in our lives is that most of us are not investing enough for our future goals, and an expense tracker will not help you in any way. So there is a two-stage alternative to tracking expenses. Instead of tracking expenses, one can start with budgeting expenses. So when you budget an expense, you can use what is known as the envelope system. Now, my family has been doing this for generations. So at the start of, I made videos on this, you can have a look at that. At the start of every month, we used to take a diary and write down how much will go for milk, how much will go for flat maintenance, how much will go for cable, telephone, etc., etc., etc. And we'll take dabbas, with each of them labeled, and we'll put the money necessary for each expense in those dabba, and we should try to limit the expense to within that dabba. We will also have money for recreational expenses and so on. So everything is possible within the budget. It helps you stick to that budget. Looking at our envelope, data has helped me understand long-term inflation in my life. Last 20 years, this is from early 90s to the 2000s, to the 2010s and so on. So it's like 20-year period. This is the kind of inflation in different expense bins. Overall, there's an 8% inflation. People ask, 6% is too much and so on. No, it's not. 8% is very nominal, and this was at the time where there were no smartphones. No, we didn't have much of fancy computers like this, what I'm using now and so on. So even then, it's still 8%. That is computer expenses. If you buy a laptop every 3-4 years, you need to buy a new one and so on. That kind of expenses. We did not have that kind of lifestyle creep as much as we are having in this decade. So it did help me. Budgeting expenses makes sense. Tracking expenses does not make any sense. But even with budgeting expenses, what happened was, over a period of time, the dabba got empty too soon. The milk dabba got empty, the vegetable dabba got empty, and then we used to take it from sundries. We used to have an emergency mini dabba, we used to take it. We were always taking it from the emergency or the backup dabbas, inevitably after the 20th of the month or even earlier. When you are doing that, then there's no point in even budgeting. I mean, budgeting helps when somebody has a spending problem. When you are controlling the budget and somebody has a spending problem, you give money if they've overspent it, then you say, I will not give you again, I will just give you once, and so on. That kind of things will work. But you are the ones who is you are the one who is doing everything. You don't have a spending problem. If you have a spending problem, that should be corrected, and that will, budgeting or tracking will not help. This, you need some other kind of counseling. If you don't have a spending problem, budgeting beyond a point does not help you. It gives you some perspective, but then you quickly graduate out of it, and then you need to go to the next level. The next level is essentially goal-based investing. You understand that money management is quite simple. There are only two components to it. You get money from different avenues every month or every quarter or every so often. Some of it will go for your expenses. These expenses are wants, needs, whatever. They're going to go for your immediate expenses. Then some of that money that comes in your life must be invested for your really long-term needs. Some of that must be saved for your short-term needs. That's all. Saving for short-term needs is easier because we understand the need, it's going to come soon. We actually end up doing a decent job with saving. Only with respect to investing, we often make the problem because we do not understand the impact of inflation. So I urge all of you to actually do a goal-based calculation. Find out how much you actually need for your investments. You can use my robo advisory template. This is a free download at freefincal.com. You can use it and find out how much you need to invest for each of your goals. That was a watershed moment in my life. That's why I wrote the post, how it changed my life. My emphasis shifted from how are we spending or how much to put in each dabbas, which is more relevant to me. How much are we putting in each dabbas, to how much are we investing for each goal. And the moment I understand that I need to invest this much for each goal, what I do with the rest of the money, how I spend it, becomes completely irrelevant. Tracking expenses is no need, has no relevance, no need. Budgeting expenses also becomes unnecessary the moment we understand this is how much I need to invest for my future goals. So I use a tracker like this. You can download this tracker from the description box. The Robo Advisory template is also linked in the description box. So in this tracker, I actually have, this is my target investment for each goal. Let's say this is retirement. And you can put the amount you actually invested in January, February, March, April, December, and so on. The average for that year is given. So you can actually have, if you look across the row, you can understand how much you have been regular in meeting the target, and then you keep moving to the next year and next year and next year and so on. I have been doing this for almost since 2011. I have data. I have data in a single Excel file. I lost a couple of years in the middle because of a crash and so on, but now I have the data. So it gives me, it tells me from where I've gone to where I am now. It helps you track not only your investments, it also helps you track how much you are actually increasing the investment every year. So the 10% is the target. So in 2019, let's say 62,000 is the target, 2020, 68,000 is the target, 75,000, 83,000 and so on. Of course, the target becomes harder and harder to comply with, but we can do what we try to do our best. That's the whole point. So once you have this perspective, expenses don't matter. You do this, you allocate this much money, you meet the target, then you can spend. There's no problem. So you can ask, is this not a version of saying pay yourself first, or expenses, or the equation expenses equal to income minus investments? Yes, it is. There's no denying that. However, this expenses equal to income minus investments will not work all the time. I have had problems when I had sudden increase in my recurring expenses. So I was not able to meet the goal targets for months and months and months, even more than 12, 14 months, I was not able to meet the goal target. But I always knew how much I was falling short, and I knew that, okay, over the last 12 months, I did not invest more than $1 lakh or so because of these problems. I knew that. So I need to put that money when I get some additional expense. So every time I got a bonus or an increment or little extra money from somewhere, I put that money, and gradually I treated that 1 lakh like a debt, and I had to close it off. And so I was able to keep track. So I'm still keeping track of the investments. And I also kept track of the rate of investing. I think I showed you my rate of investing and how it helped me grow the corpus in that 10-year experience video. You can have a look at that as well. So that's essentially what I'm trying to say. Please track in please first do a goal-based investing calculation. Find out how much money you need to invest for your goals with reasonable inputs, and try to invest as much as possible for each of those goals every month. Keep track of your investments and the rate at which you are actually increasing those investments. If you are not able to invest as much for every goal every month, don't worry. This will not always be possible. There will be ups and downs in life, but just keep track, and sometime you should be able to make good and compensate for that loss. So this method changed my life. I'm very, very sure that it will change your life also if you adopt it. Just give it a try, and give it a try for a few months and let me know. Many readers have written to me that it has worked for them. I'm very sure people watching this will also get benefited by this simple technique. It's just common sense. It's nothing great. So do give it a try and let me know how it went. I'll catch you in another video. Bye.